How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good. It's weird when I go, can you all say something so I can hear you? And there's nothing. And I'm like, okay, there's a problem there. And then I go, can everyone say something? And then I go, specifically, Colette, can you say something? Nothing. I'm like, okay, we're in real trouble now. It wasn't a big trouble. It was just that I had turned the sound off during break and I had forgotten to turn it on again.
Hey.
So earlier on, I let Rebecca in. Hopefully she comes back. I forgot. Normally I have to leave some time for the people who are here in class to come, but of all things today, let me actually turn the video off on this one. Let me say okay to that. But Sue isn't going to make it today, so I didn't have time to go home. So I'm still teaching from school, but the classroom's empty. So I opened up at 5 thinking, oh, 5. And I was like, where's everyone? What's wrong? Did I send the wrong link? And then Rebecca clicked it and reminded me that I don't usually do the Zoom until this is set up. So now, so I closed the class and I opened it again. So hopefully Rebecca will come back soon. Anyway, meanwhile, hi, how are you all doing? Today's our final Photoshop class. If you have any interest in the digital design techniques class, I had shared the roster. Let me go back for a second to show you who's in that one, in case I said last time I would do it and I didn't. So here's, oh, I'm not sharing. There's 24 people in the class and I have one more spot. There we go. So if you're interested in the class and your name is not here, then please sign up for, here it is, 44205. And I think I said this last week, but I don't think or last meeting, but I think I didn't show you so let me put in here. There we go. And it's basically next Monday and Wednesday, and it's the same schedule as this. Oh, it's not sharing. Okay, is that sharing now? There we go. So these are the people that are signed up to take it. And if you don't see your name there and you want to take it, there's one more spot available right now. And then other than that, I have to sign you in. Send me an email and I'll send you a signed form, and you have to, I can't sign it. You have to send that form in and then they'll sign it. But the important point is that you won't get an email from me with the link until you tell me that you want to be in, but you're not in, and then I'll send you the link. Okay, so anyway, that's that. Let me head over to the Padlet now, and let me put the Padlet link. The chat as well. There it is. And I'd love it if everyone could sign in. So give me a little hey ho, hello, something in the chat so that I see a bit of everyone. There we go. Okay. Hi, Eric. Thanks for joining us. And actually, I don't need to have this screen behind me turned on right now because just kind of let it be. Okay. There we go. I had to change because today Sue is not here, so there's no need for the class setup. But anyway, what was I saying? Let me put you all together because I'm not seeing it. There we go. Okay. So the Padlet here doesn't have anything new. You guys just put the work from, last week, and there doesn't seem to be any particular questions other than not last week, last Monday. So since there's nothing new, unless I missed something and you want to ask me, I think the rest of it we've already talked about, and that this is just posting the classwork. If you haven't yet put the classwork, let me know and catch up, because today's our last class. So you still have a few days to post it, and I won't do all of the attendance and grading and all that. I won't till this week. All right. Okay. So since there's nothing there, let's go to Bridge. All right. So today we're going to spend a bit more time in distinguishing. Let me actually stop my share and talk to you guys for a minute. So we have move this over here. We have sorry, I'm distracted because someone's at my door. They're bringing some keyboards. Just tell them to, yeah, put them in there. Yeah, I'll pick them up later. Okay, sorry. We have some keyboards that belong in here that they're bringing in, and they might bring some more, so they might come in a bit later. But anyway, so the conversation about camera raw files. Oh, mic in. All right. So I haven't actually said hi individually to you guys. So by the way, now that I notice, hi Colette, hi Paula, hi Rebecca, again, hi Mike, hi Samuel, and hi Eric. When you weren't here, I explained, Rebecca, what had happened before. Glad you're back. So I've been having us use Camera Raw as a tool, where we've opened up and looked in as a filter or as a tool in between. But I haven't really spent my time explaining correctly what is Camera Raw, what is a Camera Raw file. So I'm going to do it in a pretty, hopefully succinct way. But just so you know, camera can take, at this point, at this day and time, most cameras and most iPhones that are, let's say, no older than 3 years old, or, well, an iPhone, even from 2012, you could take a 2012 phone could take a RAW, but Android could do RAW earlier than that. So we're talking 5 years in the world of phones. But maybe not everyone. If you have like a low level phone, even if it's newer, maybe it can't take it, but most phones can do camera raw photos right now. And if you buy a DSLR, most DSLRs can do camera raw right now. So what does that mean? For years and years, we've taken photos with any device that we take them, and we got back in our hands a JPEG. I'm using the wrong camera to stare at the crowd and talk to this one for the crowd. This one. Yeah, because this one isn't on. This one's the one that looks at the school. And this is the one that has my new Photoshop. The school computer doesn't have the good Photoshop, and that's why I was pointing that way. But it's okay. I'll do this for now. And then remind me if I'm ever looking the wrong way, that when I start using Photoshop, I'll be looking that way. Okay, so Camera Raw is a tool that exists in Adobe in order to process raw images. That's supposedly its main job. But not everyone takes raw images. In fact, 99% of the photos that everyone takes are just regular JPEGs. Or if you are an iPhone user, you might be taking HEICs. And I am so bad at acronyms, and I always forget. It's high efficiency image something. I don't remember what IC stand for. Some of you guys that are good
High
at
efficiency image.
a high efficiency, I don't know, maybe it's not image, high efficiency something. Anyway, I'm sure someone down there can Google it while I look at it. But it's the version that iPhone uses for saving its photos by default, unless you tell it to save only as JPEG or only as RAW. So you can make a choice of how you want the moment you click that photo to be saved. Same with DSLRs. Now, the advantage a DSLR has is that you can take it, tell it that once you click on an image, at the same time, it will save two photos. One will be RAW, one will be JPEG, for example, versus a phone only saves it in one or the other. Now, when you compare a RAW to a JPEG, they are very different in size, which is why you don't want to be taking RAW all the time. Also, they don't look good. Camera RAW photos, when taken as the moment you shoot it as RAW, they look kind of flat. No fun to them. They're like, well, if at the same time you take a JPEG, that JPEG is much more attractive. And that's because the camera does some processing to that photo, automatic processing, before it saves it as a JPEG. So it's already adding some warmth, some sharpness, some contrast, some stuff. So the photo you have as a JPEG has been processed, only not by yourself, but by your camera. The RAW, on the other hand, is completely untouched. It's when you click, all the information that the camera sees is being saved by the receptors there and saved. So you have a lot more information, much bigger file, and it's flat. So you have to process a raw image in a post-processing software, like, for example, Photoshop, or Bridge if you don't want to go all the way into Photoshop, or for those of you who are Lightroom users, Photoshop Express. There's a couple different ones. Or each computer manufacturer, so say you own a Nikon will make its own little program for you to deal with RAW. Or a Canon will make its own little process for you to deal with. But by default, most people will end up using one of these programs to, thank you, high efficiency image container. Thank you. I sometimes don't even remember the high efficiency part, but this time I remembered that part, but then I forget the second before. I mean, I'm not good at acronyms. It's always like HYFLEX, right? But so it's equivalent to a JPEG, only it's even smaller. And as far as Apple is concerned, it's a better than JPEGs. You can save more HEICs with less destruction. Because here's the point. JPEGs, when all of this processing is happening, they then compress the photo. And by compressing it so that you can put thousands of photos in your phone or in your camera, they use a process, which is the JPEG process, which is called lossy. It's a lossy compression. And so a lossy compression is going to be losing quality of that initial image before you get to see it, by creating a very tiny photo. But especially you notice it in the edges of things, between like a person and the sky, or a building and, in the background. And you see it also in the highlights and in the shadows. You see those JPEG artifacts of the compression. And that's not fixable. If you have a JPEG, that when it has that, period. You just can't make it any better. That said, they're still really good photos. It's not to say that JPEG isn't a valid image. It's just that it's less flexible when you open it in Photoshop and you want to manipulate those clouds to make them better. Well, there's information that's already been lost. It's not there. Versus the RAW captures all that information, and when you open it in the camera RAW processing portion, it'll be able to suck information out of those clouds, and suddenly you see a cloud that was all white, and suddenly there's some clouds, right? Or you see some dark that was just this big flat smudge, and then you begin to see the black pants and the black boots, and before it was just one big black smudge. You can start getting more information. So if you can shoot RAW, please do so. And if you but don't do it for just throwaway photos. Like, do it for the photos that you think you want to maybe then work on further, maybe because you're going to put them on your wall, gift them, show them as your artwork, things that really matter, because they're so much bigger that it's not worth it if you're just taking quick pictures of a Saturday's trip to the beach. But what if on Saturday's trip to the beach, you're taking some really beautiful photos of a great sunset or some seaweeds on the sand, and you're trying to use those photos to then do some art with them, then you want to turn on your camera on the raw feature so that it takes them in raw, because you'll have much more of a chance to fix them. Okay, so that's what a raw camera raw photo is. Now, camera raw examples that I have in Bridge are all with the extension .dng. And I'm going to write that in the chat. .dng, right? And that means digital negative. I remember that one. And that one is that extension was created by Adobe. It's an Adobe feature, and iPhones, so Apple devices, have adopted the DNG as their format. So if you take a camera raw photo with your iPhone, it's saved as a .dng. But if you save a photo, if you have a Nikon that saves a raw, it'll be .nef. If you have a Canon, it'll be .cr2. Each manufacturer will make its own little extension at the end of it. So they don't have one extension. They don't say .raw. It would be so easy, right? Why don't they just write .raw and we all just know it's a raw image? I don't understand that. So each manufacturer has made their own. And that's what that's you know, I have in the handouts a list of camera manufacturer extension names if you want to look it up. But for now, I'll let you look that up yourself. I'm going to now start. Hi, Tatiana. Thanks for joining us. So now I'm going to share my screen again.
Yeah, and I just have a question.
Yeah.
So like if I try to, but I can open Camera Raw in a JPEG image, no?
Exactly. Let me now share my screen, and I'm going to say that does not mean that you can't use the tools that process raw for a JPEG. You can. So Tatiana, just to catch you up for a second here, we're talking about the differences between a raw image that was photographed as a raw image in camera. You put the settings to choose raw versus JPEG versus HEIC. So you might need to just catch up the last, whatever, 10 minutes I've been talking about it. But now I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go and see in Bridge that you can have images that are not only raw and still work them in the tool, because the tool to process raw images is a very, oh, wow. Hold on, little microphone is connected here to my neck. Oh, you guys don't hear it, but in here I just, you know, when microphones make horrible noise, my microphones in real bad static noise. Need to, and I don't need a microphone because no one's in class right now, but it's the only way my sound in this room is going into the computer. So I'm still wearing the microphone from the morning class where I didn't need it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and now I'm looking the other way in case you can still see me. I'm looking this way. Now let's head over to Bridge, and let's examine these camera format, these formats that I've talked about. And if you have this set up and sort by file name, right, then the files are all over the place. So for a minute, let's go to the sort by, and let's say sort by type. That way now what it's going to do is it's going to put them by type, meaning those 3 extension letters. And at the very top, we'll have 2 folders. And then we'll have one HEIC, which I am curious to know, you PC users, do you still not see the HEIC in Bridge, or do you? Who's a Windows user right now? Rebecca, aren't you a Windows user? No? Who's on Windows right
I
now?
think VDI, it's PC.
VDI is PC, okay.
Yeah.
So one time I put a lot of HEICs and I discovered that Windows people couldn't see them. So now I only put one as a sample. Can you see this one, a little image here? Or do you see like a question mark or just a little icon? For the first one to
Who?
remove. Hello, Tatiana?
It's me. Okay.
Yeah, Tatiana.
I just try to go to. It's like loud.
Oh, you're opening it up right now? That's okay. Whenever you're done opening up and you have your
Okay,
Google
okay.
image, let me know. So then we start with the NEFs. Here we go. And that means that it was shot by a Nikon. And then we have the DNGs, which are either shot on an iPhone or it's an NEF or a CR2 or something else that then was transformed into a DNG here in Adobe program. So you can save them as a DNG. And then I have two or three, I have a bunch of DNGs over here. So a lot of DNGs, and that's it. I don't have CR2s or any other samples here this time. But those are all raw files, except for the first one. HEIC is the iPhone equivalent to a JPEG, so I'm saying. All right. And then after that, the rest of them are JPEGs, and we have some PSDs. Now, if we switch back to by file name, and you scroll down to the Night Fisherman, and this is a file that we did work on in the Friday morning class, so we're not going to work on this file right now, but I want to show for all the people who are new to the class that this is the same photo, the exact same moment, no changes. The camera was set up to shoot at the same time as a RAW and JPEG, and so it produces two photos of that exact same moment, okay? And then over here, you have, look at the file size here for the JPEG. It's a 6,000 by 4,000 pixel image, and it's an 11.27 megabyte file. And when you click on the RAW, it's the same amount of pixels, 6,000 by 4,000. It's not a bigger or smaller photo, but it's 22 megabytes. And that said, this isn't even that big. This is a very old photo that was shared with me by a student taken in 2018, right? So if you have a camera raw taken now, it would even have more pixels and the files would be even huger. But when you see one or the other, right now, I'm gonna hit the space bar so that it gets bigger. And now I'm using my arrows to go to the right or to the left, the right or to the left. And this is the same exact moment. Those of you who did use this photo on Friday morning classes, we processed it. So we have a version that's all processed. But if you're in the HYFLEX version, you should have them again unprocessed like this. But those of us who work with this photo already have the processed version, which looks much better in your files, but it should be in the Friday Photoshop class. Anyway, so this is that same moment, and you have, this is what it looks, this is what it looks like in Camera Raw, and this is what it looks like in JPEG. See how they look quite different? It's the exact same moment. There's no change. The breeze, the hairs on the guy's face, everything is identical, but they look different. And in fact, the JPEG, which is this one, the colors look a bit more vibrant. The sky looks a bit more colorful. The light, it looks just a little bit better. It's still a very dark photo that needed a lot of work from us to fix it. But when you look at the Camera Raw, it's much flatter. The color's gone, all the contrast is gone. The color, everything is a little bit less interesting. And that's the difference between a JPEG or a Camera Raw. Just out of the regular camera, you know what I mean? This isn't processed or anything. Now, you might have other examples of JPEG and Camera Raw next to each other that don't look so different. And that's probably if the lighting is a bit more conventional, it doesn't look so different. It's in these extreme lighting situations where you really see a big difference, because it's in those extreme lighting situations you're trying to fix the photo that you'll gain more possibilities. So if I were to just double click the NEF, since it is already a Camera Raw image, and I'm going to do that right now, I'm going to just double click, it's going to open by default in the Camera Raw tools. Here it is. These are the Camera Raw tools. Okay. Now I'm going to say cancel, go back to bridge. And if I double click a JPEG, and I'm going to do that, double click, it's going to open up in Photoshop, meaning I bypass the Camera Raw tools, right? Well, two things are true. One is that I could then choose to use the Camera Raw filter, remember, inside of Photoshop, and still use the Camera Raw tools on this JPEG. Got it? So it's not like I can't use the tools anymore. I would have those there. But, and I'm going to close this file. There's another way to not bypass the tools. And that is that when I see a JPEG and I want to open it in Camera Raw before I get to Photoshop, then I have to right click and say open in Camera Raw. So even if I have a JPEG, I can still process it in Camera Raw. And for those of you who have the HEIC and it's still working, and it was, where was my HEIC image? What was the name of it? I lost track of it. It's this one here. I could also right click and open that one in Camera Raw. Okay. Now, if I have a PSD, I'm looking for a PSD somewhere over here. I cannot open it in Camera Raw. You see that? A layered file already, that cannot be opened in Camera Raw. Choice is not there. That has to be opened straight in Photoshop because Camera Raw cannot accept layers. Okay, so everyone try that. And if you saw how that works, I haven't opened per se. I'm just doing the right click and showing you that. And then you'll see that it won't, it just doesn't give you the option to open it in Camera Raw.
I have a question, Diana.
PDF will not open with Camera Raw. Here I have a PDF as well. Yes, what's your question?
No, I was working on a JPEG and then I opened on Photoshop and then I went like to filter and then Camera Raw. Is that the same or it's something else?
No, that's the example I just gave, that if you're in Photoshop, oh, now that I've installed beta, I have to remember to right click and say not beta. Okay, let me,
Okay, so maybe you
hold on,
just
hold on,
a,
hold on.
a different tab.
Let me just answer that question a bit longer. It's just that I opened the wrong file, so I'm trying to fix that.
Hmm.
It's not the same. And on the one hand, it is the same, and on the other hand, it's not. You can process, and this is the part that we haven't done yet, which is why I'm bringing it up today. You can process a raw image straight from Bridge, open it in RAW, fix it, and never open Photoshop. So you don't have to go into Photoshop at all. You can just fix it with RAW, which is basically what you do in Lightroom. For those of you who use Lightrooms, you just fix it in the tools, the develop tools, whatever in Lightroom that's the Camera Raw tools, right? So you never go into Photoshop. And then if you need to go into Photoshop for that image, for the stuff that only Photoshop can do, then you can choose to open it in Photoshop and do other stuff in Photoshop. That's one way to work with it. A different way to work with it is to be already inside of Photoshop, and from inside of Photoshop, as you said, go into the filters and open it from there. Which, if you're going to be doing compositing and things like that, we do that a lot. We do that from the inside of it. But when an image is a straight image and it might not need the Photoshop tools, you might as well do it from here and not go into Photoshop. So it's the same, well, it's 99% of the same tools that you get here as you get as a filter. There's only a few differences, but it makes a difference in once you get to Photoshop, what you start working with. And that's what we're gonna practice now, because you're gonna start working in Photoshop with a fixed photo that's already been fixed. So then you only have to do whatever else is needed in Photoshop, versus when you open the JPEG in Photoshop, you start applying a filter and then it becomes a bit harder to make it be editable, because you're starting with an image that isn't editable anymore. So it's just, as we work today with it, you'll begin to distinguish a bit the differences, okay? Ultimately, it's the same tool. And when you use it in different places, it gives you a slightly different result. Well, let me correct myself. It doesn't give you a slightly different result. It gives you the same result. It's just as good to do it in one way or the other. You apply it for different reasons. Maybe that's a better answer. You apply it for different reasons. Okay. So, and again, I know that people from the Friday morning have done the Night Fisherman, but just because it's such an easy one-click fix, then we went into more details. But as a very quick way to see how effective it is, we're just going to open it literally as our first example for 5 minutes, and then we're going to move on to another one. But here's the Night Fisherman. It's the NEF version, okay? The one that is not a JPEG, the one that is a RAW. So all we need to do is double click and open it up, and it'll open. Oh, forget that it's going to go into beta. Cancel that again. How do I get it? Now that I have beta, I right click and I want to open it in Camera Raw, it's always going to default to, wow. Okay. I guess I'll just do it in beta, but I need to share that screen with you guys.
What if you use open with? Is there a choice?
I did open with, but it will open in Photoshop.
Oh, there wasn't a choice.
Well, let me cancel and try. I don't think, because it opens in if you do open with Photoshop, it won't put you through Camera Raw. I don't think, well, let me see. Oh, you were right. It did put me through the Camera Raw for regular Photoshop. Okay. And it's not that I don't want to be using beta. I've been using it. I'm learning it. So because soon when these tools come in, I need to know them. But since I know that there's tools that you guys won't have, the last thing I want is to be having like showing you stuff that you guys still don't have. Next time I teach Photoshop in the spring session, I will probably by then hopefully these tools that are in beta will have been incorporated into the newer version of Photoshop. We don't have them, but I don't know. Okay, so here we are in Camera Raw. And the reason I wanted us to open this is because it's a very, very easy, quick fix. But first I'm going to walk you around these things a little bit. So for some of you guys, this is the first time we open any of these tools. I've been taking this class over here to the remove tools and the masking tools, remember? But I haven't used this portion of it. If you're completely new to this class, you haven't seen this. And this is really the main set of Camera Raw tools. So just to see what the computer is going to do for me, I'm going to go ahead and click on this little word auto, which is completely automatic. And which is when you do that, that's what happens. And by the way, let me turn these things on. There we go. And with just a tiny little auto click from there to there, what a difference that makes to this image, right? Pretty different. Notice that this is an example of what I was saying. This all looked like one big black blob that just was nothing. But when I hit the auto, suddenly you begin to see that there's a net, there's legs, there's more to it. And we can find even more to it. If we head over here to this item that says light, we can go, and this isn't the right thing to do, but I'm gonna just show you if I keep making it lighter and lighter and lighter, although the rest of the image is looking bad, suddenly we can really see he has his pants, his legs, you know what I mean? Stuff that you didn't even know was there. I'm gonna zoom in fact. So from where we started, which is there, to what auto did, which already lightened it up a little bit, to moving this up, there's a lot more information that we were seeing, and it's all there in the photo. And that's the kind of stuff that in the JPEG might have been lost or not, but that the RAW, you can still keep pulling things out of it. Does that make sense? So if you've all been able to do, and this is not a good correction for this photo, I'm just showing you, because that's a very good example of showing you something that's there. On the other hand, those clouds, if I go down on exposure, there's just nothing there. You might be able, we had to work with many other tools last time we had to work with other tools to make that work better. And there's a shadow there. And so we did a whole bunch of other stuff. But I just wanted to bring you this for a minute to show you a couple things. So let's turn the auto feature off so that we're back to all these little arrows being in the middle. And then we can independently work with just the blacks or just the whites, right? Or just the shadows, or just the highlights, right? And so you can work on different parts of the image at the same time. In this case, it was the shadows that lined up those pants. See that? So that was mainly the one that we had to have. So when in an exposure, it went all blown out except for his pants, because this is global. It applied the same opening up in light to the entire image, so we lost everything in the background. Versus if we choose only to lighten up the shadows and to leave the rest the same, then only the shadows opened up. So this without masking gives us a way to work with photos in separate sections of it based on, instead of masking which is based on location. It's based on luminance tones, based on the light that's on that image. Does that make sense? You're all good with that? Okay, so now we're gonna cancel out of this one. You guys can play with it, you know, Friday, people already did it. Let's cancel out of that one. So cancel out changes and dismiss camera raw. Yes, for now we're gonna dismiss it. If you guys wanna play with it on your own, you're welcome to do that and to post it in Padlet. But for now, oh, by the way, I know some of you guys joined us in Padlet after I had posted the link. So let me copy the link and point it in here in the chat again so that everyone has the Padlet link. All right, so let's head over to Brit. All right, I need some water. I've been something got in there. It's not letting me alone. Okay. So so instead of that one, I'm gonna head over and have us work with, and which is the one that I had chosen. Oh, the DNG. It's called Luminance here. It's kind of right next to it. We're gonna spend a little bit of time on this one. So it's right next to the Night Fisherman. We're gonna double click on that one. It's a DNG. So by double clicking on it, it's gonna open up in RAW. And I'm going to do this because I needed to open up in the regular photo. But for most people, just double clicking is all you need. All right. I didn't ask you for yeses or nos. Some of you were nodding or whatever. But if there's any questions before I continue from anyone? No? If you're all good and you have this one open in camera, then let's keep going. Okay. So first of all, this up here is a histogram. And in the other photo, there were some extreme tones. This one, on the other hand, is pretty, you know, flat. There's no extreme tones in it. And if you look at the histogram, it's kind of telling us that same story because this is all kind of flat. There's one little peak over here of the blue, but for the most part, it's all pretty flat. What a histogram is telling me is if it's a tall mountain, there's many pixels of that color. So when you have a whole bunch of, you know, one tone, you would see. So it looks like there's a whole bunch of this tone. Sorry, not in this one. Hold on, let me cancel out for just a second. You don't need to do this. Just stay there while I bring this other one up. We're just see how this one is completely the opposite. It's got this really tall peak on the left side, which represents our blacks because there's so many blacks in here. Then it goes really low on the midtones, and then it goes up again on the light tones because of the sky. You see that? So it's kind of showing us the luminance tones of this image. And if I hover over this area, notice, and I'm going to circle an area here that you guys are going to look at there. Circle this area here. I go back to this photo. Notice that when I hover over this area, down there, here where now it says 18300, there it says blacks. Over here it says shadows. Over here it says exposure. Over here it says highlights. And over here it says whites. So those names correspond with these little sliders here. So if I were to click over here and let's say shadows, the one that I said was so efficient, can work it from here. Look at what happens to my histogram. See how it's changing? Just look at the histogram. So I'm bringing all those blacks and I'm pulling them into the midtones. You see that? It's kind of a good one to demonstrate it because it's so volatile because so many changes. Well, guess what? You can also click over here on the blacks and drag them over to the right. So when I said over here, yeah, my mouse is here and I can drag it from there to bring them into the right. So it looks like I'm moving this one, but I'm actually here. Up here is where my mouse is and I can click them from there. It's not as efficient, but anyway, that's just, I prefer moving the sliders, but just so you know. Anyway, so I'm going to cancel out of that one and open the one that you guys are using because since the tones are a little bit less extreme, but hopefully you guys have been doing the same thing. And here we go. Here are where these numbers appear. I'm going to now hover over and discover, well, there's not many blacks. This is how low the mountain is for all the blacks. And if I look at my image, yeah, there's not much in the way of blacks. Maybe some of these curtains might be black. Maybe the black of that boat. But other than that, we don't have many blacks. Over here, we have the shadows. So the darker tones, not black, but darker shadows. There's a bit more of those. See how the mountain goes up a little bit. And I would say it's all these windows. Even that's probably a shadow, not a black. And then we go into the middle tones. And yeah, it's all kind of flat. It's all these, you know, neutral tones. Maybe this part of this window. Those would be the neutrals. Then we start heading into the highlights. And there's a few more highlights in here. And in fact, you have all these like colors and that light over there. And then there's that kind of bright little bit of a shadow over there, maybe some of these things. And then we get to the whites, which is the brightest of the bright. And there's not much. So these are basically very in between tones. Okay. So again, I could click and drag and start clicking up here and moving stuff around. I'm going to go ahead and if you did any of that, I'm going to just go ahead and double click on these guys to bring everything back to 0. And we don't want to see any of these little hills climb up on the left side to the top. You know what? I'm gonna open both at the same time so that I can keep showing you on this one as an example. So now I'm going to open both so that I can keep going back and showing you one or the other, for example. So I'm going to go to this one for a second again, because this one has what I call clipped tones. See how this mountain goes up and hovers higher, it goes higher than this edge? That's because that's clipped tones. And if I click on that little warning thing there, those weird blue spots that appear are warning me that I've got clipped blacks. And what clipped black is what black without detail. If I had whites that were clipped and I click on this guy, which I do right there in the light, those are whites without detail. So they're so white that there's just nothing there. This is so black that there's just nothing there but just black ink, full black ink, and just in this case it would be white photo paper, no ink at all. Okay, if I go back to this one, it's the opposite image. Everything is pretty flat. There's no extremes of any kind. So even if I turn these guys on, nothing's going to happen on this image. Actually, I was wrong. There are a few little pure white, see those little red dots that appeared over there? So that we do have a little bit of a clipping there on the extreme light brightness and that little silver lining of the cloud, so to say. All right. So now that you can see how, so leave those turned on. And how do I know if it's turned on? Because there's a white box around it. If I turn it on again and there's no white box in it, that means it's off. If I turn it on, now it's on. So normally you want to keep them on so that you don't exacerbate the problem, if possible, and or so that you avoid when you do create more or less highlights, you want to be warned that you're clipping the tones, because clipped tones are really not good. A couple little dots like that, it's okay, ideally none. But right now, our eyes would go straight to those. If this were printed, like if you had a big bright sky and it were all like red clip warning, then that would mean that all this stuff would be just white paper and the ink would be around it and our eyes would be drawn to that and it would look horrible. Okay? So you want to avoid the clip tones. All right. So now let's head over here and see what the computer thinks of this image. If I hit the auto, well, interestingly enough, if I hit the auto, whatever the computer does to it is clipping all our sky. If I turn this clip warning off, right, that's what it's doing to our sky. Let's turn this off so we can see for a minute. I'm going to turn off the auto and turn on the auto. It's basically made everything a bit more punchy, right? It's brought a lot of contrast. But with that, the sky that used to be boring light blue went white and it clipped those tones. So it's gone too white. There's no tone in that. Okay. Everyone good with that? If you're following through with what I'm explaining, please give me a yes. If you have any questions, if and or buts or something like that, this is a good time to ask. Now, the reason I kept referring to the other one, there's no one way fix everything. Each image is its own creature. And what I'm going to show you in this image is different than if you use it to another image, right? Which is good that which is why by showing you different images, you keep learning, because who knows what image you'll come up with. But in my case, I'm taking up a bunch of space here, being able to go back and forth. So from now on, I'm going to minimize this film strip. But whenever I want to go back to show the other one, all I need to do is open this up so I can go back to the other one, right? I just want to not use much more of our space than I can. So I'm clicking over here to make it smaller. That way I can keep working on this one image. I saw a hand before and now it's gone. Didn't someone have a question and now they're not? No?
I did.
Yeah, what's that?
I did auto, but then I went and I took the whites down
Yeah,
after I did auto.
Yeah, I haven't
And,
touched any, but that's the idea, is to decide if you like either you start with their help and then move on, or you ignore their help and do everything on your own. But if you were to do what you did, which is do auto and then work with the whites, then you can change whatever's happening, right? I'm going to go ahead and turn it off, turn the auto off. And I want to make sure that we all have everything. Turn the auto off. And if you've been moving stuff for now, move it all the way back to 0. Unless you're someone who knows how to do this and you're on your own, go for it, start processing it. But for people who are learning with me, some of you guys have never seen this, please walk with me through the steps. But I know Barbara's been doing this before, so you're welcome to proceed whichever way you want. But yeah, the auto sometimes is perfect. It fixes it. And sometimes it's not. So don't think because there's an auto feature that you can hit auto and keep moving and it's all good. Many times it does a horrible job. In fact, let me just say on this one, when you do auto, let me turn this off. It kind of made it better than it was, but then we got it to look much better for ourselves after we kept playing with it, right? So we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to look at this and go, is it better or not? With that red, it's hard to tell. So for now, let's turn off the clip feature so we can look at it without having that red in the way. And now hit auto and look at it and go, okay, the computer basically is thinking that it's all a little bit underexposed and it's adding exposure and it's making everything a bit lighter and maybe a little bit more contrasty. So, okay, and that's just looking at the image. Now I'm looking over here from centered to auto. It's basically moved everything a teensy bit to the right. If you just look at these now, notice that from auto to right, numbers for the most part are growing a little bit, except for highlights that it went a little bit down. Everything else is on the plus side, except for the blacks. So it's basically moving things one way or another, but mostly to the right. Which means that if we know how to look at an image, we can play with these ourselves, right? Now, I don't have anything against the auto. It's great to test it out and see what might be a good starting point, but don't ever think that that's enough. You always have to keep working with it until you find the right place for yourself. So I'm going to have us turn it off because I want us to learn. So I don't want to start with the auto on, but if you've already know how to do this and you want to start with on and then work on it, that's perfectly good solution. Black and white over here would turn it black and white directly. It's all black and white now. And if I turn it off, the HDR feature, it's an interesting one because this is not an HDR image. Now, what's an HDR image? If you have an image that has extremes of lighting between the highlights and the darks, say that the sun was hitting, or the shadow is hitting from the back, where you would have these in shadow, but the sky would be really bright or something like that. You would have this really difference in exposure levels, and you would have an HDR might equalize those, but this is all a pretty flat image other than that little brightness there and these artificial lights. There's nothing there. So so HDR, you know, all it does is it darkened the black, and that's why it goes blue, because it darkened the black to the point that it kind of went really dark over there. But other than that, nothing much happened, right? So I'm going to turn HDR off. This is not the right photo for the HDR features, so they're of no use to us. There's another image that I have down there where HDR makes a bit of a difference. All right, which leaves us with what comes next, which is the profile. This is the profile based on what the camera used to photograph. It's the color profile of the camera. And in this case, this was shot with an iPhone. And so the profile by default is Apple Pro RAW. If you click on these, you might discover that there's others that come with other cameras and stuff like that right now. This is Apple Pro RAW. Yes, Rebecca, before I continue, I see your hand's been up.
My question is about, I've never moved things around with the histogram. I think that's quite interesting. And it seemed to improve the picture, but is that better to use the sliders, or does it really matter?
It's just a different way. I feel like I have more control down here, but in fact, whichever works for you. And so, yeah, normally I've shown you how to do this right here with the sliders. But you're welcome to put your mouse over here. And when I say over here, since you can't see it now, trust me, it's up here. The moment I click on it, my mouse kind of disappears, but I am going back and forth over here. So I'm going to click in here. I'm going to go back and forth over there. And if you look down at the bottom, it's the exposure slider that's moving because I put my mouse in the exposure section of it. See that?
Yeah.
So
does it matter
does it
what
make
the
any
histogram
difference?
looks like when you're done? Does
All that matters in the histogram is that you don't clip tones.
Okay.
And other than that, the rest is your preference. Some of you guys might make this be a very bright image. Some of you guys might make it very dark. This image doesn't have that much leeway to it. So some of you guys might make the colors really vivid. We're not even in the color section yet. By the time we're done, you'll all have your own interpretation of this image versus what it really looked like, which only the photographer will know, which in this case, it's a photo I took. That says, I have some, by the way, I have some amazing, I can't tell you the sunset that was happening on this side. The clouds are like magnificent, but I wasn't bringing magnificent photos to the class. I bring photos that need to be fixed, right? So this is a photo that on its own says nothing. So you need to work on it. I know what it looked like, but 90% of the times people either don't remember, aren't there, took it 10 years ago, or they're fixing someone else's photo. So it's all subjective from now on. And what you want to make it look like is the story you want to tell of that moment. And I always want to remind you that photos are stories. What do you want to say with this photo? Do you want to make it look one way or another? And that's how you're going to process it, right? So there isn't, you can do it whichever way you want. You can just bring in the darks over there. You can make it much darker. But the only problem is I have clipped, see that line that's jumping up? That means I have clipped my blacks. One last explanation of what clip my blacks means. If this was turned on, if I don't turn it on, then I have to look at my histogram and see that light to know that I messed up. If I turn this on, I can actually see what areas are messed up because they've turned blue. What this means, once again, is that if I print this photo, everything right under this blue is going to look flat black. It will have no texture, no details, no little wavy things of the water. It'll just be pure black. So it's going to lose quality of information. Does that make sense? If it just goes flat black. So you want to pull it back out until you are not clipping the tone. So here, I'm just moving it up here instead of there. And all it helps me is to be aware of that line, to pull it back down until that line is not there. And then I'm aware that I can't go any blacker than that for the blacks, or I might lose anything of value. This is a wooden boat. And if I go close enough, and I don't know that it'll make any difference in this, but if I go close enough, hold on, I keep zooming in, it goes up. I might still see some texture to that wood, a little bit of tone to that wood versus if it's so black. Let me turn this off. If it's so black that it clips, then all that stuff is going to be printed, and that's what really matters. Just one big flat tone, no texture whatsoever. On the screen, we still have some leeway and it might still look like it's good, but on screen, on paper, it will look bad. So I'm going to just bring it back out and make sure that I have, in fact, immediately right there, I began to see a little bit of texture that wasn't there when it was all flat black. It's just a little, but it's better than nothing. It helps us, okay? And over here as well, this area, I'm zooming in to this area, that right there. When I was making my blacks darker, see how it's just turning into a bunch of flat black stuff, versus if I bring down the blacks to where they're not clipped, see how there's texture to that black now. And if I were to even make it even lighter, we'll discover that there's not only a little bit of texture, but look, there is 2 cement layers and there's some of that green moss and stuff. All of that was hanging there. And what I did is I made my blacks go all the way up, which might not be good for the photo, but for that little area, it looks pretty good. So that's when you begin to think of maybe doing individual masks where maybe other stuff might stay less black. But in this area, we might want to see some of that. So we might have to make a mask where in that area, you're going to pull that up so that you can see that, look, there's rings that boats are attaching themselves to. There's all the seaweed or the moss, you know, that stuff that grows under. There's the overhang. I hadn't seen any of that when this was in the regular black, and much less when I had darkened my blacks. Does that make sense? So it's like you're discovering stuff. But if I now go to my entire image and I do that to the blacks, and everything has gotten kind of even less interesting, even less contrasty, right? It's even more flat. So there has to be an area where you just do it to some parts and not to others. And that's what we're going to talk about with masking. But anyway, I want you guys to explore at 100%. So we'll head over here and we'll go to 100%, right? And then explore different areas by, so let me, this is a pretty generic-ish area where I have some of that light stuff. Let me turn these off so for a second we can look at things without the right blue and the red things. And I want us to explore each slider and bring it all the way back to 0 each time. So we already saw exposure is global. Everything gets lighter or everything gets darker. Sometimes a little bit of one or the other helps. And in this case, probably the whole thing was a little bit dark. The whole thing could probably be brought up a little bit. But now we're going to just explore what these do and then double click to bring them back to 0. Then I'm going to go to the contrast. And and I'm going to go higher in contrast. So higher contrast is going to make my blacks get blacker and my lights get lighter, right? And lesser contrast is going to make my blacks get grayer and my lights get grayer. So if you look at the histogram, you guys, over here, look at the histogram, don't look at my mouse. I'm going to first move the exposure all the way to the right and everything in the histogram moved to the right. Now I'm going to move it all the way to the left and everything in the histogram goes to that. That's exposure. Contrast, on the other hand, is going to create like this little whoop bucket because the light tones go towards the light and the dark tones go towards the dark. My darks get darker, my lights get lighter. Okay. Versus when I go to the left, they all meet in the middle like a little mountain. Everything got flattened out. So if I go back to fit in screen over here and I want to look at contrast to the right, to the left, that you can see the whole image, you can really see the difference. And basically, many times photos do much better with more contrast, right? And I believe this is a photo that with more contrast is going to do much better. But you have to be aware if you're losing anything in the lights or in the darks to the clip tone. So now let's turn on the clip tones, warnings. And now let's move the contrast to the right, which I think this needs more contrast. So I would move it to the right. And as I move it to the right, you have to be aware of where it's suddenly too much. And in this case, it's not too much for quite a while. It doesn't really get bad until you get all the way to the very end, okay? But for the rest of it, I think it's not looking bad, not to the very end, but just showing you at some point, some contrast might be good. Now, do we need to give it the contrast here? Or can we leave these two where they are and then just begin to gently move the highlights one way or the other, the shadows one way or the other, the whites one way or the other, and end up with the same result, right? So yes, start as I answer questions now, everyone start moving your sliders back and forth. And as long as you don't increase the clip tones in any extraordinary manner, start playing. And by the time you're done, you might have a different version that I will have, or that Paula or Mike will have, you know, ideally. So I'm not going to share with you how I would fix it right now. I want you to go ahead and start. I'm going to answer questions here, but I want you to start moving them back and forth and seeing what you think is better for the image and what's worse for the image. And notice that when you move one and you move another, the first one might need to be moved over again, and then the second might need to be moved over again. They all kind of affect each other. So I'm going to let you, some of you might want to start with the auto and then move from there, or you might want to just learn from the beginning what these things can do. I would venture to say it's better if you don't start with the auto for now, and try to see what each one of these things is going to bring us. And yes, I saw a hand which is now gone. Who had their hand up?
Me.
Paula. Yeah, what's up?
No, I was kind of like trying to understand like the difference between like the exposure and whites and blacks. So like the
Yeah.
exposure, it's kind
Okay.
of both together.
No, yeah, so exposure is global. Everything gets lighter at the
Okay.
same time. Everything. And let me turn these off because it goes red so quickly that it's hard to tell. So maybe you need the houses to get lighter, but maybe you don't need the sky to get lighter, but it doesn't matter. Exposure is going to make everything lighter. Need it or not need it, right? So if I were to the right, maybe that's good enough for the houses, but the sky
Oh, what
went
happened?
away, right?
Where'd it go?
Versus if I go to only the whites, then I might make, or so only to the shadows, right? Then you might see how the sky is not changing much right now. When I move the shadows, it's
Yeah.
only working on mostly the ocean, well, the water, it's a river. And then if I leave it over there, for example, to make it darker, or if I move my blacks in the dark and I move my whites, then the house is changing, but a little bit is being reflected, of course, because I have some light reflections here, but for the most part, it's not touching the ocean as much as when I did this, that everything happened, right? So this is the global correction. And these here are, let's say, masked based on tones, on tonalities. So ideally, you're only moving the whites back and forth. If you look at the sky as being highly affected by the whites, but look at the ocean. It's being affected, of course, by contrast, but not in the same way. The sky is going from flat white to boring gray, and then this over here is barely, it's changing a little, right? Because it's only working on any tones that are white, and so on and so forth. Again, if I go to the highlights, which are even more focused to just really bright tones, see how only my sky is moving, and basically almost nothing else is changing? Can you tell?
Yeah.
So you look and see which tones are being affected, and then you see, well, what do I think? Do I think the blacks need to go darker? Move in black. Or do I think the blacks need to go lighter? Move in there. And you play around with that, but always keeping an eye on those mid-tones and making sure you're not losing some detail. So anyway, hopefully that.
But like if I would move the whites and the blacks and it would be like if I would move everything together, highlights, shadows, whites and blacks, would that be equivalent of moving the exposure?
Yes.
Or it affects differently the light?
Yes. If highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks all move the same amount to the right, it would be equivalent to having move your exposure all to the right. Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So it's like divide it in 4 parts or keep it all in one mode. So I'm going to
Why
turn
does
on.
that keep closing on me?
So now I got something that visually I kind of like, but when I go over here in the histogram, I go, whoops, looks like I've clipped my blacks. So I turn on my clip warning and I go, where did I clip them? Oh, does it matter to me? Is this too much? Well, if it is too much, then I might need to just bring it back a little bit. And so now I just use this as a place where I can leave a few little dots of blue here and there, but I don't want all of that to be gone, all of that black. So even though I kind of liked it, then it's like, no, I need to bring it back a little bit. And so I still have a little bit of clipping like there and there, but I can live with that as long as the rest of the black is pretty black. But I can't get it that dark because that's just too much. Does that make sense? But then I wanted to lighten the shadows quite a bit. So I lightened the shadows because I wanted to see the city better. But then I went with a white, so anyway, I'm just playing around with these things, and you guys are welcome to do whatever you're going to do. And I'm going to be much more extreme than the auto was proposing. And I'm going to give it quite a bit of punch. That's about where I might leave it. And then you go and click on this little eyeball and go, this is how I started. This is where I'm at right now. This is where I started. This is where I'm at right now. So it's the before and after. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying this is how I want to see it. Now, I still have a lot of, so I'm going to have to zoom in to see what's happening over here. A lot of clipped stuff in the lights. And it's the yellows that are clipping. But I still have texture in there. See that? So I'm not going to worry too much. It looks worse than it is. You know what I mean? I'm not really losing this whole area. It's still going to print. Because I was thinking whether to bring that highlights a bit. No, I think I prefer it.
There are so many things happening in this picture.
Yeah. I like that. So anyway, you can start, after you've done the general tones, then you have to zoom in to 100% and then start looking at each thing and see what's happening to the clouds, see what's happening to the different areas, and make sure you're not losing something important. Okay. So especially if you have anything that's clipped, like this, when I turn this off, that was clipped. I look at the colors and I go, no, it's still fine. I'm not getting.
I love those fish.
These there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I love it too. They had them all over the city. Those they're pouring out of that. This is a museum. It's pretty cool building. Okay. This is Portugal, by the way. Who cares? Want to know. All right, Mike.
Where'd the grain go?
Does the number on the exposure or next to the exposure, does that equate to the number of f-stops difference?
Completely unrelated.
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 Okay.
Yeah,
And then,
good question. No, completely unrelated.
and then does the
Let me
HDR?
just hold on, because there is a place where you're seeing. This is for those of you who understand photography, as in using your camera at a manual level to understand the settings on your camera, not just point and click an iPhone, which, by the way, this is an iPhone photo, so it's basically a point and click. But over here, when I'm not hovering over the histogram, when I'm just with my mouse anywhere else, it's telling me that this photo was taken at ISO 80, and it's just basically telling you what lens you used, what exposure, what aperture you had, which is what he asked, f1.8, what speed it was at. This only matters to you as a photographer if you can do something about it and go and change the exposure, whatever. But for the rest of the world, you're stuck with what's there. Like whatever the moment the camera clicked, that's what the settings were. Later, as a person who took the photo, I might want to go and do a search for any photo that I've taken at 1.8 aperture, and I could do a search and that information will come up and all my apertures 1.8 will pop up, kind of thing. But other than that, it's not really useful to anyone other than for the photographer to know to change what they do next time if they're trying to learn or something like that. But right now, all of these are completely independent. That's kind of stuck in stone. It's what the camera did. That's all that is. And from now on, moving these numbers are completely unrelated to that. They are related. They are based on luminance tones. So you can have a certain amount of luminance tones, and that's what this is counting. They're pretty much individual to their own little slider and have nothing to do with photography of itself. I thought there was another question, somebody interrupting. Yeah, or was it you, Mike?
And the HDR button, is that best used with a photo that's been taken HDR?
Well, it's interesting because when you turn on the HDR features, which here there's not, it's not a photo that needs HDR, but then over here, look, I'm going to turn this off and under, see the light section that has finishes and blacks. When I turn on the HDR, see how it adds some more tools to it. And then I can tell it how many stops I want, how much of stops I don't want. I can go to SDR settings, but I don't, nothing, it's like extra settings that have to do with an HDR limit. And if I turn this on and off, it just, you know, it's giving you an idea of what it would look like if we were to use it. Let's wait until we have a photo where it might make a difference to play with it. Because right now in this one, there's just not much.
So essentially, it's
just
trying to do it by mathematics.
What's that?
It's essentially trying to do it by mathematics.
Yeah, it just doesn't have, well, not
Thank you.
mathematics with sliders with numbers, you know, like with visual exposure. But no, it's not. If you had taken the photo with the HDR feature on in your camera, would it then, when you turn this on, give you some information here already? That I do not know the answer to. I'd wonder, I'll go find a photo where I've turned the HDR settings on and open it in RAW and see whether that, so I don't have that in this example. This one did not have HDR settings on because it's not an appropriate lighting to that. Okay, so now when I want to see the before and after, I go and turn this little eyeball on right there. Okay, and I go, ooh, I preferred it when that was there, or this was there, or whatever feature was there. So I'm going to say that I'm going to leave it right there, whatever those are. And I don't want you to imitate. I hate doing this in person because some people might imitate my numbers. My numbers are just my numbers. They're not your numbers. Don't look at my numbers. Move your sliders around to make your own decisions because I won't be here when you are moving your own photo numbers. You know what I'm trying to say? So I want you to learn the tool, not to put in the number that I gave. I'm not going to say it's correct because you put my numbers. This is my one interpretation. Those numbers are only correct to what I want and feel and think and say right now. And one thing I want to specify very importantly is that these numbers are correct to me in this computer, in this monitor. And when I look at the same photo in my shared screen in this monitor, well, it doesn't even look that good. It's still looking kind of flat in this monitor because this monitor is not so calibrated. And then when I turn around and look at it up here on the main screen, it's looking even different, although they did do a good job of calibrating these monitors, but it's not perfect either because each screen is going to show it to me one way or another. That might not mean that it's correct or not. It's just whatever that monitor is showing you. So if you look at mine and you go, oh, it doesn't look so good, and I'm going to look better, yeah, make it look as good as it will be for you. And then we're gonna, I haven't done any screenshots, so let's do a screenshot and post this in Padlet, and then let's take our first break. I see there's a hand up.
Do they calibrate the monitors there in the classroom?
Here they do. This is a whole new setup, and they've calibrated everything.
Wow.
Thank you, Tatiana. I noticed that you posted something. If anyone can go back and post something from before, that's fine. But for now, I'm just going to post this one. And I'm going to write more about it right now. But this is a basic light correction of my raw photo. All right.
I've lost what I was.
I've got someone
doing.
coming in with more materials, so I kind of need to tend to them for a minute. I know I said that I see another hand in there. Shamuel, can I ask you to write it down what your question is and ask me when we come back?
Sure.
Let's do a break. And normally I give 15 minutes. This is the only class I only give 10 because time kind of goes away with me. I'm going to give us 10, but since I don't know how long I'll take with this, if I'm a little bit later, it'll be, so it's 6:25. So let's be back at 6:35 p.m. But if perchance I'm a little bit later, give me a little bit of leeway with that. Okay, I'll catch up in a second. Oh, I guess I should turn some stuff off. Anyway, I'll be back. Oh, fuck. shit. Literally, oh fuck.
Okay, I have luminance 3, luminance 4. Thought I had luminance 2. Okay. Okay, I have number that's number 2, 3, where did I get that 34 PSD at? Um, um, okay, Command Z. Um,
Barbara, your audio is on.
up, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me, guys? Okay, my sound is telling me it's about to come off, so give me a second while I change my. Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay, good. Just had to have my second microphone set. All right, sorry, I had these people in here most of my break and then I had to run out to use the restroom, so sorry, came back a bit later. Okay. Oh, Shamuel, you seem to have written the question, which is picture taken in the morning or evening? Does that make a difference on the adjustments? Hold on. That's a good question. I'm not going to tell you the answer right now, although of course I took the picture so I know. But give me, I want to get a clear idea of what you guys think about it. So can everyone give me a green yes if you think it was taken in the morning, and a red no if you think it was taken in the evening? So green for morning, red for evening. I'm just curious. Given that we all have different, opinions and points of view, I would like to know what you think. So green for morning, red for evening, and everyone has to, you can't, it's okay. Even if you're right or wrong, it makes no difference, right? So everyone vote. Give me a yes or a no, red or right. Okay, so Mike, you're saying red. Do you know, Mike, where to find the yes and no in the reactions? Just saying. Anyway, okay, so basically I have two people who are giving me, someone changed. There was another person who said yes. Okay, so a few people say yes, which is morning, and the rest of you say no, which is evening. And the correct answer, and again, it's not like it's correct or not, and I'll say why, Shmuel, it does or doesn't matter. The correct answer is evening. This is very near sunset, and the sun had already set in the city, but as you can see behind it and over the hills, there was this beautiful sunset happening, but none of it was reaching this area. Now, the reason I said I wanted to know what you guys thought out of curiosity, but also, does it matter? What do you think? Does it matter if it was sunset or sunrise? If you didn't have me to answer that, if I was not around, does it matter?
I think that's.
So Eric says, yes, it matters. Colette is saying no. Paula is saying yes.
When you're choosing colors,
Jen
it
saying
matters.
yes. Rebecca is saying it matters. Okay. So here's the thing. Rebecca explained a bit more. She said, when you're choosing colors, it matters. Remember I just said that that a photograph tells a story. And it might not be as obvious in this one, but some photos can be manipulated. Remember with the fisherman, it's called night fisherman, but in reality, I never asked the photographer if it was night or right. I wrote the word night fisherman in there because it seemed night to me. But when I asked this of people, we discovered it could have been sunrise, it could have been sunset, who knows? He might be coming back from his fishing at night, or he might be about to go out. It could be sunset or it could be sunrise. He was a night fisherman. And that's why he used those lights and whatever, but it could have been either side of it. And what matters is your interpretation and the story what you want to tell. If you have the rights to manipulate this photo, then what story do you want to tell about it? And based on that, you're going to change the colors of the sky or the reflection on the buildings. Now, is that right or wrong? If it truly was sunset, shouldn't it be sunset colors instead of sunrise colors? Well, first of all, they're not that different. What's different maybe many times is the shade, the long shadows and stuff. But other than that, the colors per se are not so risen. But yes, you can have much warmer sunrises, sunsets than sunrises. Or you might have more oranges instead of pinks or things like that. But in the end, what do you want it to be, and what story you want to tell? And as long as it doesn't look incongruous, like this would not be midday sun. Like if you try to make it midday sun, it wouldn't work. It could be a cloudy day. Well, then change that sky. Could it, if you change that sky to a cloudy sky, would this photo work? Actually, it would, right? So it's not incongruous to say that it was a cloudy day, even if it wasn't. If I were to change the sky with the techniques that we did last year and put a cloudy day, that would look fine. It would look like a wintry, cloudy, cold day, right? Wouldn't it? And in fact, it was not. It was a nice, it was not a cold day. It was a nice sunset. It was a beautiful, one of those like perfect, not too cold, not too hot kind of days. And it doesn't matter, because as long as it looks good and that's what you want to say, you could change the sky to make it be a cloudy day and it would be fine. You could say that it's sunrise, put a little bit more pink in the sky. You could say it's sunset and put a little bit more orange in the sky. And this photo per se would look normal. That said, since it has no sunset or sunrise colors on the buildings, it might be harder to believe if you suddenly were to put a very sunsetty sky or in a very sunrisey sky. It might be harder to believe, even if it's right or wrong, than if I were to put a cloudy sky. Because if you have a sunsetty sky, you might expect some long shadows, and there's no long shadows. So you'd have to find a sunset sky, which makes sense for it to be happening in the background and not in the foreground. You know what I mean? So what's right might actually not look as good here as what's wrong, which might be better if this were a cloudy sky. So see what I mean about, does it matter or not? It just matters what looks right with the image, okay? Or it matters if it's a story you want to tell. If this is a image that accompanies my blog, my travel blog, telling you about how at the end of the day I arrived at the town and da-da-da-da-da, well, it better look like sunset, right? Because I'm illustrating my story. If I'm telling you I woke up so early to take one of these boats, then it better look like sunrise, right? I had a great day in the sun and we started the day, then it better not be cloudy if I had a great day in the sun. Hopefully that's a good answer. And I'm not sure, does anyone else have anything to add to that kind of concept of what I said? Basically, it's art at this point, however much you think about it or not. Post-processing is art. It's your interpretation of this moment. And even if you didn't take the photo, what your interpretation it might be is different than mine. In fact, let me see if you guys have been posting in the Padlet, and let's see if there are different interpretations. And let me get the share. And let's see what you guys have posted. And it's, you know, they're all kind of next to each other. So I can see over here, this one's quite a bit darker, and I'm not seeing the details, but this is quite a bit darker than that one or that one. Over here, I'm seeing a bit more color, and the sky went a little bit bluer, maybe almost a little bit more red or purple in that sky. This one's a bit more green. This one's a bit more yellow. Can you tell? It's not very clear. You guys can go and look at your own version of this, but see how we've all got different, slightly different sky tones. I made mine more punchy. This one's a little bit flatter. I think I have less orange in my little tiny windows here. This one looks much redder. So if I open this one here, look at how orangey these lights look as opposed to the one that I posted. They're a bit more yellowy, and you'd have to see them one next to each other, right? But it kind of gives you, so am I going to say one is right or wrong? I don't know. It's an opinion. It's an interpretation. There's a bit more red in this one here. But did you change the colors yet? Maybe not. Or maybe yes. I'm seeing that there's some color here. So maybe Eric went ahead and already changed color a little bit. And how do I know? because this little eyeball is white. He went to the color mixer, to the curve. He did some color grading. So he's worked with Lightroom before, so he knows how to use some of these tools. So he's already done that. Or you went with auto and some of these things were turned on by auto. I don't think so, because I don't see auto turn on. I think you went and worked on these guys. So you already have a color shift that the rest of us don't. At least the rest of us were following this class, because I haven't led people to color yet, right? So it makes sense that I saw a color shift in here. Yay me, in this tiny thing, I already saw that color shift, right? Can you tell now that I pointed out to you the difference in color? Not that it's darker or lighter, but can you see there's a color shift there? There's much more red in the sky there. Well, it kind of looks like a little bit of pink, right? That none of us have.
If
We have a
buildings are
pretty
warmer.
The rest of us have a pretty neutral-ish sky. I believe there was one that had a bit more yellow. This one seems to have a bit more yellow. And if I open it up, yep, you had worked with color and you had added yellow. Yay me again for noticing color even in that tiny little thumbprint. You know what I mean? It's not easy. Your eyes need to get sensitized to color. So you need to work with it quite a bit to see it. But yeah, there's a lot of differences there. Is anyone more right or more wrong? No, not really. If you go and go to an art show, I might be
Oh,
just
dear.
in love with this picture here, and you'll be in love with that picture there. And it's just whatever's hitting our sensitivities. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other. You know what I mean? So anyway, there is such a thing as correct. And I always stop myself at this point, because I did go to college and learn that there is such a thing as what's correct. I went I'm a professional photographer. I graduated from Brooks, and we spent bazillions of hours doing color corrections. And in fact, I have two majors. One of them is in the color department, right? So I see color because I've trained into it. But I am still loath to say one is correct over another, although it was drilled into me that this is correct and this is not correct. I'm like, yeah, but in reality, I'm much more of, in a sense, an editorial photographer, where what's correct doesn't matter anymore. It's what feeling you want to make this photo have. And I still will stand by that. As long as your whites don't look pink, because, so you might need to do some marketing, some masking and stuff. I still think that if you want your sky to be, bluer, and as long as the whole thing doesn't get a horrible cast or tint by mistake, then it's
I
still
don't
correct
remember how
to what you
post
think.
these.
So yes, I could probably tell you that there is a correct color. And on the other hand, I don't think it really matters, as long as you don't do. Last thing about the color. And I've given you this, guys, this concept quite a few times, but if you go to a TV store and you see the same channel on 10 different TVs, they all look different. But
Yeah, isn't that true?
because you're there seeing all 10. But if you were at home watching the movie, you'd be watching the movie and you'd be like, the movie's fine. It's the movie I'm watching because it's the color your TV has. You know what I mean? But when you can see all 10, you'd go, ooh, this one's better. This one's better. So it's up to you to train your eyes to decide what you think is better. But ultimately, unless you have a chance to color calibrate your screen, which you can buy a color calibration tool for your screen, and I do have at home, and these computers here have been color calibrated. But I don't know what screens you're looking at these things on. So the one that I'm saying that looks red might be looking purple to you. I don't know. It depends on whatever color cast your screen is giving you. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's my final little thing I want to say about color. I, on the other hand, have not used color tools here yet. Okay. I've only used the light version of the tools. And since when you close this, I only have one eyeball that's colored, that's white, I can easily toggle the before and after on by toggling that thing on and on. But once I begin to use other things, there's other on and off tools that I'm going to show you. So for now, let's collapse light for a second and let's open color. Now, these are not centered like the lights were to start with, because what you're working here with is with the as shot that the camera chose to be its place to consider white balance is when tones are back to neutral. And if there's any place that's supposed to be correct, this is where it's supposed to be correct. There is a technical way where you get your grays to be as neutral as possible. Your whites and your blacks thus become neutral. And if you're a photographer that carries a grade card, a 50% grade card with them, and you photograph that first, then you photograph the scene with that card in the middle, and then you photograph the card, with all that all put together, you can go to your computer and you can measure and you can make that scene be absolutely color correct according to a color 50% gray color card. So yes, there is a way to make this be completely neutral. But since most of us don't do that unless we're on a professional photo shoot, then all we have left is what the camera chose as what's correct. Or if you click over here, there's other choices you can make for it. But I also skipped out. I was beginning to explain Apple Pro Raw, I believe, when the first people delivering stuff came in, because I noticed that I interrupted that conversation. Because although we worked on light there, we worked on it based on the profile of what Apple, the camera, gave the image, and based on what the camera chose to be my white balance. So look how much is going to change here color-wise if I now go ahead and say, well, that's what my camera thought, which is an iPhone. What does Photoshop think, which is auto? Ooh, see how it became much more yellow suddenly? I don't know if you guys noticed. Let me switch back from as shot to auto. There's a lot of yellow got added there. Can you tell that? Now you might not have the same experience on your computer, but that was the computer decided it made to be more yellow. The rest of these depend on the light of the day. So if I tell the computer that it was bright daylight is very blue. So the computer is going to make this even, it's going to try to compensate for it. See how now I have much more blue. If I tell it that it was cloudy, it's going to bring more yellow. And if I could tell it was shade, it's going to be even more yellow in. If I tell it that it was a tungsten light, which is a very green light, it's going to counter, it's going to go ahead and, tungsten is a very orange light. So it's going to make this blue to counteract my lighting. So this is supposed to be the actual lighting. This word is supposed to be the lighting that was in the moment. So if tungsten is very yellow, the white balance is going to be achieved by counteracting the yellow by adding blue. If I'm saying that it was fluorescent light, which is very green, then it goes red, right? So it kind of keeps changing. And if you wonder what's happening is these guys keep shifting, the temperature and the tint. Not these two, vibrance and saturation not being touched, but temperature and tint are being added, are being changed. So I tell it was flat. See how these two moved? Now it went back to being like daylight, and I tell it was daylight, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm changing what supposedly is the neutral tones. What should be white or gray or black are supposedly becoming neutral with one of these. One of these is making it more neutral than another. But we can use those to make our image look more yellow or more blue, or we can go back to as shot and then move our own things around until we like it to be one more than one or the other, right? Now I'm gonna just go back to as shot as my basic. And then these movements are always going to be tiny, a little bit to one side or to the other. We're not going to like really have much movement here because it just looks ridiculous. But the moment I start moving them myself, it reverts to being called custom. Okay. So I'm going to head back to as shot. And if I liked any of those better, like if I wanted it to look more pink or more yellow, I can say, well, I think it was a bit more sunset, so I can make things a little bit more yellow. But you got to be careful that the whole thing suddenly doesn't look like the yellow it would look like if the sun was like if the sunset was really here, maybe it wouldn't be ridiculous for that to be the color. But since we're not seeing sunset light, it doesn't make sense to have so much yellow. Does that make sense? Anyway, and the same with if you have a color shift for, usually it's internal light, it has a color shift. Usually outdoors, there's not so much color shift, then you can play with this one, which is green. They counteract each other. Red takes away green, green takes away red, and then yellow and blue take away each other. I'm going to just go back to as shot, and then I can either compare and choose if I like one more than another. I kind of like this with a bit more yellow. So I'm going to go with auto only because it changed a little bit more. But I'm going to leave it at that for now with color. And the last way to use this tool, so if we all go to auto, well, if we all go to as shot, since it's what all of us have the same, let's all go back to as shot. And then the other way to use this tool is to use the eyedropper. So I'm going to turn on the eyedropper. That's right there. And now I'm going to head over to this image and I'm going to say, well, I think that this or that portion of the image should be, and you have to find a color that's as near to neutral gray, middle gray, or white would work if you don't, even though it's called white balance, a neutral gray now. It's very hard to find a neutral gray. If you think this should be gray and you click on it, you'll discover, maybe not, maybe that wasn't. If this you think should be neutral gray and you click on that, the whole image is going to counteract that yellow. If you think this should be neutral gray, then it's going to go green to counteract that the light is so gray. Let me go back to as shot to clear it up. So you need to find something that truly could be white. Now, not the bright exposure that's so like, not the whites that are paper white, but either you think this is white, or if you think this should be white or gray, click on that or that, but some of this might be cream colored, so it's giving it a yellow cast.
Okay, window.
Okay. But as you can see, no matter what I click on, my color's changing to adapt for the fact that it's trying to neutralize that color that I'm choosing. So if I'm clicking on yellow, now it tried to neutralize that, trying to turn that yellow into neutral gray, which, because I clicked on yellow, it doesn't make sense because this tool is to be used on whites or grays. Even if you click on a black, you might be better off, but black isn't usually a very good color because there's so many colors going to make into black. So you're better off finding a white or neutral gray. So anyway, as things move around, if you look over here, things have been moving around as well. Okay, so now leave it wherever you want or wherever you like. You know, this is a learning experience and you might discover that one is better than the other, or maybe it's better to just move these up. So I'm going to leave it a little bit yellowish. Then I can counteract it. Let me backtrack for a second. If I turn these two on, now I have some light and some color changes. So if I go before and after, and I left one that's pretty obvious so that everyone would see it. Maybe myself, I would make less of a change, but I want it to be pretty different. So if I click on and hold it, that's the before. I let go, that's the after. And this is the before and the after of the light. But I'm not seeing both together. If I'm seeing the before and after the light there, I'm still seeing the color changes. If I'm doing that, I'm still seeing the light changes. So how can I see the combination of before and after? That one comes way down here. So actually not even down there, over here, this box is the before and after. So I'm gonna click on that one time. And now that's my actual before, and this is my actual after. And I've only used two little boxes, and there's quite a bit of change between that and this, isn't there?
Oh, I can't find it.
What are you looking for, Barbara?
I lost the panel on the right with people and or
The Zoom panel of people?
yeah, the Zoom panel.
Well, do you need to see it, or are you needing to see me? I can.
Well, I see you.
Okay, I'm going to stop and share again to see if you can see the imagery that I'm sharing. Let me just try one. I'm going to share again. And go back to my Photoshop. Do you see now my share?
I see your, oh, come on. I see your screen and I see you.
Okay, that's all you need to see. If you can move me over to the side to work on yourself. But as long as you see me, this is the point I'm making, that between my original before and after, I've only gone through two panels and look at a difference that I've made in this image, and which you might prefer or not prefer. That's up to you. But that's just a beginning change. Now, some people prefer to see them on the same image. So if you keep clicking, now when you click on that one box, they've opened up a bit. So go to the furthest one and you click on it 5 times before it goes back to after. So before and after, click on it again, and now it's giving the before and after split in the middle of the image.
No,
like
I don't show that either.
And when I click on it one more time, it gives me the before and after one above the other. I click on it one more time, it gives me before and after with a line in between. And when I click on it on the 5th time, it's back to being just after. Okay,
I don't have any of that stuff.
I'm going to share your screen so I can see what's
Sure.
happening with you.
I don't. Oh, okay. I've got to
Meanwhile,
make.
you guys, can you please post what you have until now? If it's different, like go open the color panel and show me
Come
what you've
on.
chosen for your color panel, and do a little screenshot of your color panel. We haven't finished using the color panel. We've only done temperature and tint, but I'm waiting for Barbara to share.
Okay, okay, there. I got it wide enough. I can do share.
Okay. All right, so you have the same image open 4 times.
Right. Well, yeah, different things I did do it.
Okay, so none of them are open in Camera Raw. You have the same image open 4 times, but all of them in Photoshop. You've bypassed Camera Raw. So where are you making these changes? Guys, you see how different these images are, but where have you been making these changes? In Camera Raw, or have you used adjustment layers or a filter?
Okay. There's the DNG right here.
Yeah. So if you open it,
Open.
but no, but you're saying open again. There we go. So yeah. And here is where you made those changes. Well, now this is a new one again, so it's empty. So you're not.
Oh, I made the changes that changed it to a PSD.
Okay, so you made changes here, you slid things around, and then did you open it there? Is that what you did?
I hit open here.
Okay, so that's what's happening.
And then I did a save.
Got it, got it. Go ahead and say cancel for a minute here. That step that she took is one step beyond what we've taken. After doing her changes in Camera Raw, then she said open. And see, she's in Photoshop right now. For those of you who don't know, this is Photoshop. But she opened 4 different versions. But this is crucial, what I'm about to say. For better or for worse, she's stuck with these versions in that when you open them from Camera Raw, that's your initial image. And you can't go back and change it because you thought maybe it was too dark or too light or too yellow or too green. Does that make sense? Opening it this way is, if you want to call it destructive, not really, because you still have the original to start all over again. But within this Photoshop, within this image, she's stuck with that. Within this image, she's stuck with that. And then you fix from there. So before you do this, Barbara, I'm going to bring you back to open it again in Camera Raw. And then we're going to keep working with these choices before we end up opening it in Photoshop. And I'm going to show you then how do you go. You're like a few steps ahead of us here, okay? And also,
So
if I want 4 versions, instead of having 4 versions open individually in Photoshop, I'd rather make 4 versions in Camera Raw and save them as snapshots. And then open in Photoshop.
So there's snapshots within the Camera Raw.
It's within Camera Raw, yeah. So anyway, go ahead and go back to Bridge and open it one more time and stay in Camera Raw. And then I'm going to keep, if you want to, you can just do like auto or something to deal
So I
with
just hit
color.
open or opening Camera Raw.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen because I do want to get to the place. We're not going to make this photo be perfect or anything. We're going to work with it a little bit more, some of the major tools. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to get to, well, what do I do with it when I'm done? Kind of what Barbara was beginning to do, but there's options. So let's say that I like it right there.
Bridge is bouncing.
Right now I have changes in color and in light, and I want to save this in this moment of time before I keep making changes so later I can begin to see my corrections, right? So let's head over here and do a snapshot. I think I've done that in this class before. I think we did snapshots here with our remove tools. Not sure. But
I don't remember how to do a snapshot.
Yeah. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over here on this little sidebar.
Where are you?
And where you see a little stack kind of under the eyeball, that little stack, you're going to click on that, and that's a snapshot.
Oh, wait, I'm okay. That's Camera Raw.
Yeah, open it in Camera Raw, give yourself some automatic corrections just to have something to compare to, and then go to snapshots. Okay, So once we're
Um,
here, we're going to take a snapshot, but this snapshot we're taking isn't of the photo itself. It's of the settings. So this is going to create a snapshot of all the settings that it took for this image to look this way. And I'm going to call it, let me just say light and color and half color, because we only used half of the color tools by now. So I'm just going to call that one light and half color, whatever, just to have it have a name. Okay.
I don't see where I made changes, but I don't see where to,
To do, okay, if you already made some changes, then over here on the right side, Barbara,
yeah.
where you see these tools right there, that one right there that's like under the eyeball, that is the snapshot tool.
That looks like a bunch of pieces of paper layers.
Yeah.
Snapshot. Okay.
Click on that.
I shift
And
that.
when you want to make a snapshot, you click on this little guy, which for years meant new in Photoshop. They're now putting a plus sign everywhere, but they left this one here. They should have a plus there, but to make the fact that they're changing all their little new to snap. And then make yourself like a beginning snapshot of what you're just with those two things, what's been changing. Okay.
Okay, it would be like the first change or something.
Yeah, so now I'm going to clear this. And I'm going to go back at the very top. Those are the edits. Okay. So this is the snapshots. This is the remove tool that we've used in the past. This is masking, which I'm not sure if we got to masking yet in this class.
No, not in this class.
I used Friday. I did quite a bit of masking with you guys on the Friday class. But with this group, I haven't done masking yet. In Camera Raw, I did masking in Photoshop with you guys, but not in Camera Raw. Okay, so we go over to edits. And now I'm going to continue with the other two tools that are under color, which are vibrance and saturation. This is similar to exposure, where exposure is global. The whole thing got lighter or darker versus the rest had more nuance. So saturation is global. It's going to make the colors pop. So if I move saturation to the right, all colors, all one by one, every one of them is popping. Every single color is getting
I need two
saturated.
monitors. I swear I can't. How did you get it open?
I went back from snapshots. I went back up to this tool,
Snapshot back up there
to the edits.
and hit edit.
And now I'm in color. And so I moved my saturation all the way to the top, and everything saturated as much as possible till it looks right neon. I'm going to move it to the middle again. And if I go all the way to the left, I'm in black and white.
Okay,
So
it's color.
no color, middle colors, all the colors. Okay. So I'm not adding colors. I'm just saturating the colors to the point that it's like, looks like a 60s image, an old photo, or it's really green. Now, if all the image needs saturation, that's a good tool. But if only some colors need to be saturated, then vibrance is a more intelligent tool, because vibrance is going to try to equalize the saturation of the different parts of this image. So if something's already saturated, it won't touch it. And if something is blah, it'll move that one up. So it's trying to even out the saturation points. And it doesn't get to the point where everything looks neon-y. It's just much more subtle. So when I start moving saturation, vibrance over in an image that doesn't have much color, there's not much color over here, so not much is going to change. It's only going to change where there's color. So really, it's just this stuff is color, and a bit the sky, and a bit of that. So as I move my vibrance all the way to the top, see how it doesn't get so crazy neon. It's still at the end does get definitely too poppy. This is not realistic, but it's doing it in a more even-handed manner than this did. Okay, see how crazy this went and how the roofs smell like they're on fire. So that's the saturation versus the vibrance is even at its max, which is still exaggerated, is not looking like things are on fire like they were in the other one. So you have to find a nice balance. Now, if you desaturate the vibrance, it goes away, away, but it never gets to full black and white. It's a cool effect. It goes to less color, but it's not completely black and white. So depending on what you're looking for, that might be a nice effect. I think this could totally take a bit of vibrance. This is my point of view. And I don't think it needs much saturation because this has already got a lot of color. So, and I don't want to have the roofs go orange. So I'm going to put this is quite a bit. Usually I put less of these, but I'm going to put quite a bit of vibrance on this one because I'd like this to be more colorful. And then I can turn this on and off and look at this whole thing and decide, yeah, I think that's good. It's looking a bit more sunsetty. I know it's sunset. So I went with a bit more yellow in my colors, but it wasn't like the sun is shining on them. So I'm liking that. That's representing what I remember. But of course, I'm the only one who remembers it. The rest of you go by what you like. So that's light and color.
Okay, that
There's
would be.
other color tools down here, by the way, but right now I'm just going with that one. And I'm looking at the time, and I have more than completely correcting this image. We need to move on to what happens after I'm done. So I'm not going to go down this whole list of things, but I'm going to do a few of them. And one of them that might be interesting, in case this is more like an architectural digest type of photo or whatever, is the fact that, like most cameras, when you take a picture, the buildings kind of begin to collapse in perspective. See how that's pointing in and that's pointing in, which this is how our eyes cameras see. We might not care. Sometimes it's much more exaggerated, but that's something that we can fix here in, sorry, not in the optics, in the detail, I believe. No.
Diane, when you do it that way, I've got two snapshots. How do you get back to the original one?
I'm having a blank. Hold on. I'm trying to find the camera, the perspective. Where did they put it? I thought it was under optics, which it's not. I thought it was under detail to start with, but it's not.
So before and after.
Where do they have? Is it in the crop? Yeah, it's in the crop. It used to be, okay. It used to be over here under the detail optics in one of those, but it's in the crop tool right now. So let's go to the crop tool for a second.
Okay. Now I'm in Camera Raw, but I don't have the tools on the right.
Well, then say cancel and open it again because you should be having these.
Cancel all changes, dismiss Camera Raw.
Say don't dismiss, say yes. To the
Oh, I already clicked that.
okay, well. Then
Okay, so I gotta go get this again. Okay, open in Camera Raw.
All right, so everyone, let's
Oh,
go
now
to,
I have the tools.
yeah, sometimes things disappear. All right, you probably clicked on some shortcut to make them disappear. All right, click on crop, which if you hover over it, notice it's crop. It's not just crop, it's also rotate and geometry is what it's called. And it's geometry that I was looking for. So here we're in crop and expand. Now, the fact that it's crop and expand, that is artificial intelligence. That's AI, just so you know, in case you want to expand this. I don't really want to expand this, so I'm not going to enable it. But if this image needed a bit more to one side or to the other, we could expand it. I'm not going to do that here. You guys can play with it if you want. But so over here, see generative expand, but I'm not going to expand this image. I just want us to head down to the geometry.
Crop and expand.
Okay. I'm going to head down to geometry.
Wow.
And in geometry,
That's preset.
to start with, it's kind of,
Barbara, would you please put your mute on?
oh yeah, I'm going to mute you. Sorry, Barb. Here, I muted you
Thank
because
you.
you speak to yourself a bit. Okay. So here we go. Geometry. Thanks for reminding me. Sometimes it just becomes transparent to me. So I'm happy when someone reminds me. Okay. It's funny. I'm not too sensitive to sounds. And I'm just saying that because my kids, when they were noisy, it didn't bug me. It was just kid noise, but it really bugged my husband. It's like, you can tell what's difference and sensitivity to sound, and I can just let sounds be in the way. So I do need you guys to tell me when something is bugging you because I might not notice it. Okay, so here's geometry. And yes, Colette. Oh, you're muted.
When I hit crop
Yeah,
and expand,
yeah.
it doesn't come up as crop and expand, it just comes up as crop. And there's no generative.
What camera raw version do you have? I have 17.51. See how I'm looking at it up
I
here?
have 17.5, so I must have
Right.
another one I need.
Yeah, because
Okay.
the fact that you can get generative expand and raw is new.
Okay.
So there you go. It's okay. We're
Need
not
to
going to use the
update.
generative expand part of it, but do you have the geometry in it? That's all.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yes, I
geometry's
do.
been there for a while. It flipped over from another place, but the geometry's been there. Okay. So in geometry right now, you can use, these are automatic tools or these are manual. So let's just try for the automatic ones. If you want to just have it all, it's like auto, this A is for auto. Let's just click on auto and see what it does. Ew. I actually don't like what auto did because look, let me undo that. Let me turn on, let's go back to nothing. This was a little bit tilted to the side, but this was tilted inwards, right? And when I clicked on the auto, it straightened that one, but look at how it tilted that one over even further. You see that? Now it's actually tilting outwards. That's weird. See what I mean? Between that and that. I don't like that correction at all. And I'm not saying that this photo needs that correction because it's not about the architecture, but I wanted to show you the tool. But I don't like that at all. So I'm going to turn that off by going back to disable the automatic because that didn't look good to me at all. So I could try a couple of the other automatics where I can go to manual transformations, but let's go through what the other automatics are. And this one is only going to level it up. In case this was not level, it's going to level it. So when I click on that one, it turns out that according to this thing, and here's how you turn it off, right? This wasn't really level. And if you look at this horizon, you might or not agree with it. But just saying that, let me just move this out of the way for a second. There we go. Sorry, I had something turning on in the way. Come on. I had some stuff turning on. So this is, if I don't like that, I go back down here. And if I do want to see if this is better before and after, I can turn that on and then I can try the eyeball before and after, before and after. And I'm like, you know what? I really don't think that's better. In fact, I'm seeing these lines kind of go down. So I don't think that's a good correction either. That was funny because I haven't really seen this be so wrong. Anyway, this is going to apply vertical perspective corrections, which hopefully should fix these two. Let's try that. Whoa, that's the one it's going crazy. This is so wrong. I've not seen this tool be so wrong in the past. How funny. Don't like that at all, so I'm going to turn it off. And then in this one, we get to draw some lines to tell it what to get, what you would like to correct. So I'm going to click on this last one and just show you how to use it. Okay. And say that I want this line here of this building to be straight. So I'm going to click along the line of this building and make a line there. And when I let go, I'm going to go and click this one. You need to have two. So I've clicked on these two that I want to have straight. And when I let go, now that's much better. It's when you let go of the second one. See how it straightened out? I'm going to turn these off so you can see now. That's nice. Can you tell what happened? So let me show you this again. I'm going to undo, undo, undo. This is my original image. All the other automatics, when this ended up really tweaky and weird, even if this one got straight. So now I'm going to draw a line across this one. Nothing will happen. Once I do the second one, it's all going to work. Maybe I'll start over here this time. And I'm going to try to be very, very faithful to the side of the building because remember, I could go over here and mess it up. So I'm going to make sure that I'm using the exact same place that right now is crooked. And then when I let go right now, nothing's happening yet. It's when I let go of my second one. So I'm going to go from here down and I'm going to go there, move it a bit until I'm sure that I'm against the right thing. Once I let go of that one, boom, that one's straightened out. And actually, I think I'm a bit overcorrected on this one. So I'm going to go there. And if I want to see this without the guides for a minute, to see it before and after, I see over here where it says clear guides. I'm gonna leave that. And if it mattered for the lines to be straight, they're certainly straight now. Does that make sense? I'm gonna just stop right there for a second and answer some questions while I want from you guys a yes if it's working, a no if it's not working. Okay, so Colette. You're muted also, so if you're talking to me, I can't hear you.
That's my hand up from before.
Oh, okay, so Tatiana,
Lower my hand.
I have no crop.
you don't have the crop tool?
Mm-mm.
Let me stop the share. Can you share your screen? Because that has been there forever. Let's just see. Go ahead and share your screen and I see what's happening. Let me see. Oh, hold on. I got the wrong mouse. Here we go. And yeah, that's the tool right there. Do you see where I made a circle? Yeah, that's the crop tool. Click on it. There we go. And you have the manual transformations turned on. You might want to close this one for a minute, just so to have those things on. And then these are the ones that I tried, and you might want to try them. And then the final one that I'm using is this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. You notice that when sometimes someone says, I'm missing something, I immediately go, that's weird. And I say, share your screens. And other times that you say things are missing, I'm like, well, try this, try that. Because I have an idea of what's right and what's wrong. And it would be wrong for the crop not to be there at all versus when someone says, I can't see this, I have a different solution. But it's not that I want some people to share and others not. It's just that I kind of, some things I can't figure out without seeing, right? Anyway. Cool. Tell me how it worked with you guys. The geometry, were you able to get it straight? Does it look good? Are you comfortable with that? And if so,
I feel I lost a piece of the building without wanting it.
Okay, yeah, it's possible that you moved it too much and that in order to accommodate for that, it had to tilt it and you lost. So where did you lose it, from the left or from the right? Paula, did you lose it from over there or from over here?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I didn't see. From the right.
Okay, so
I'll try again.
depending on how much you changed things or what you did, it is possible in these tools, very possible to lose stuff, because say that you do a crop like that, then suddenly the correction means that you were going to lose everything that's out there in the gray, right? There is a correction for levels that haven't chosen because this photo I didn't think needed it. But then as you zoom in, you start losing stuff, right? So you have to be careful of that. But if it's too much and you're losing the photo, then it's not worth it, right? See if you can do it again. Otherwise, come back to me. But I'm going to say that.
I'm sorry, I have another question.
Yeah.
Is it like cropping just kind of like the buildings area, or it's cropping the whole thing?
We have not done a crop yet. The tool is the crop or geometry. We're only working with geometry. I have not cropped anything yet. So if I do a crop, it's going to be on a portion of the image or not. For example, maybe I don't like this leading line leading me out there. Maybe I would like to stay in this area. So maybe I can just bring this in and have that be.
I can't see your screen.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So let me share my screen. Okay, so I haven't, the tool is crop and rotate and geometry. Right now, I've only used the geometry portion of it, but when you're doing the geometry portion of it, it's possible that you might have already inadvertently cropped in a little bit, because that's what fixing these things does. It's going to leave a piece of your image out. So you should be seeing most of the image, but what if you do a correction that's a bit too far out? So let me see if I can undo I lost, so here we go. If I make this correction go a little bit too far out, hold on, not there, but over here. Then see how I suddenly lost that portion of the building?
Yeah,
Because I
that's
moved
what
it.
happened to
That's
me.
what happened. So you moved too far out. So you need to just move them back in again and then push it in again until it's back in the right spot. And then you can, you know, so if you wanted to have all that stuff that was out there originally, keep pushing it in and moving it around, or just start again, like clear the guides, and you go back to the beginning and you can start again. And then this time draw a line that's that's accurate and it's not, it doesn't move as far. So you're not supposed to move these, you're supposed to just draw them. And the computer's gonna fix the shape of this building to match, to make this go vertical. But only once you draw your second one, right? So once I draw my second one, both of these lines are gonna become as vertical as they can be. So yes, I lost some. So watch before, see how I have this whole red messy thing. I have something in blue there, right? But when I suddenly, and over here, I see like a beginning of a chimney and this entire balcony. By the time I write both of my lines, then in order to straighten that, I've lost whatever that blue thing was there, and I'm beginning to cut into that balcony. Does that make sense? So yes, it does crop in order to straighten this out. It kind of has to do like that. So it kind of grows. Yeah. All right. I seem to have lost more this time with the second example than I had before. So I'm going to clear them again, and I'm going to do it a bit more carefully because the first time I did them paying attention. So it's good to follow a line that exists already. So like this is a line there that's very easy to fix. And so you might want to use one of those. I clear my guides. And
I don't get a crop and expand. I just get a crop.
yeah, so we talked about that with, was it with Colette? I have 17.5.1. If you have only 17.5, then the expand wasn't there. That was for Colette. That was the answer for Colette. She needs to update. I don't know if it's the same for you. But anyway, if once it's done, you don't like it, then you can work on some corrections.
In bridge, I have 15 something.
Bridge, I don't know what my version of bridge is. Let me see.
Okay, so
Bridge is 15.1.2. Yeah. But Camera Raw upgrades separately. It's a separate app. Camera Raw and Bridge and Photoshop, they all update independently. All right, I do want to teach you a little bit more about this, and time is running out with me. This was just incidental. Since we have buildings, I wanted to show you how to straighten them. I don't think it makes or breaks this photo, but keep playing around with that. And then over here, I also want to show you, if you do want to do the crop portion of it, right? That there is such a thing as the crop that still might need to happen. So I'm going to click over here again on the crop tool to enable the crop guide. See how my straightening stayed straight, but I also might want to crop in, for example, just to say that I want to get rid of that little half chimney there. I don't know, I'm just saying.
okay, where is it?
And I'm leaving the stuff I don't want in the gray. Maybe I want to go even closer to this building. I'm going to do that. I don't particularly want to crop there, but I'm showing you things that you can do. That is an actual crop. Maybe you want to have a bit less sky. Now, if I do this and it's in like constrained mode, the whole thing is going to close in at the same time. And I didn't want that. I only wanted one side, right? So I need to go over here, and I have them locked right now. I'm going to go ahead and say, I believe full is what lets me only, no, not full. Which one was it?
Where?
Is it custom
Do
ratio?
you
No.
see what it is?
I don't know what you're looking for right now, but I'm looking for the
I'm trying to find out what version of Camera Raw I have.
up here. Wait, my pencil disappeared. Here.
I can't, let's see. Camera raw 17.5.
Yeah, I'm in 17.5.1. So if you upgrade, you should have the same tools I have. We
Oh,
can
that's
upgrade
totally
in the
different,
class.
isn't it?
All right, anything else you guys want to say or do? So anyway, beyond working more with crop or not crop or stuff like that, I just wanted to take you to how do we finish? Say that we love the color, we love the light, we love the crop. Say that we worked with this for a while and we love it. By the way, let's head over to the snapshots. I forgot to do another snapshot. This is the one that we're going to do the snapshot after having worked with some color. So I'm going to do a new one. So I came to snapshots and I'm going to make a new one. And this is going to be light and all color and geometry, for example, just to, so now this is before and after. And so you see, even though all I did was fix the geometry, it did end up getting cropped in. Does that make sense? Because in order to straighten those things, it had to pretty much push some stuff out of the way. Oh, I was answering Paula, who had just fallen out, and she just came in. So these are my light in one color, and this is, it got a little bit more, a little bit yellower, not much, and yet I changed the geometry on this one. Here we go. Paula, you're back. Can you hear me? Okay. So if nothing else, if we didn't do a
Yeah,
screenshot,
my battery went off.
okay. I'm gonna head over to geometry and do a screenshot of the geometry tools too. But let's go all the way back once you've done your snapshots and everything. Let's go all the way back to the basic presets, where we've really only used 2 by now. There's so many, but I want to move you towards, if this were finished,
Basic preset.
what do we do next? Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to post. So this is Diana, and we're getting very near the class, and it's our final class. So let's take advantage of this, and let's all focus for a second. So here, this is the one where I
Well, where do you get your presets?
fixed
Yeah.
light, color, and geometry for now. And ready to leave camera raw and continue in Photoshop. So I have the choice to click on done, open, or open as object. And I'm writing something that I haven't explained yet. I'm gonna go ahead and publish this. And now let's continue.
I don't get it.
Barbara?
Yeah.
If you want to stay a little bit after class, I can help you, but right now I want to take the next few minutes to move forward with what's happening next, okay? And then I can help you. Okay. So, guys, if everyone's kind of here, wherever you're at, you're good, you don't have any, crucial questions, give me a yes. We're all good? Okay. So say that we like that, even though there's much more we could or do or not. Say that we like this. God, I feel like showing you at least one mask. Let's just do one quick mask, just because I want to show you, for those of you who haven't seen masking in Camera Raw, what it could be like. So let's do a quick mask, and then we're going to move into Photoshop. So here we go. On the right side, right under the remove tool and above the eyeball, there's this little circle with little dots. That's Camera Raw masking. So I'm going to click on that. And depending on the image, it'll give you different options of what you can mask, right? So it's very different if I've got a portrait of a woman here than if I have a building or a landscape. So I could either tell it to select subject, and who knows what it would choose here, what the subject is, probably the buildings or the boats. I could tell it to select the sky or the background, like the opposite of subject, right? How about we work on the sky for a second here? I'm going to click on sky. Oh, not just those three. I'm sorry, don't click on sky yet. If you did, I apologize. If you did click on sky and you did there, just click on this little reset. So if you did click on sky when I said that, go to this little guy and reset so it disappears. So you have subject, sky, and background, or you have other choices like landscape, objects, and if I were to set landscape, one choice would be the sky. One is the architecture, one is the water. You see that? Now, before, you could have also just gone to sky right there, and that would have been sky as well. But down here, it gives us choices. And if we had trees or ground, it would say it'll say things based on this image. So let's say sky, although it might be nicer to work on water. Let's say sky. We click on sky. We're not going to replace the sky like we did before in Photoshop. This is just to work on the sky and nothing else. So it's gone kind of reddish. That is my masked area. So I'm going to create a mask. And I'm basically at the same exact spot that would have been, and I'm going to back off, had I just said sky. See that? I looked for it in a different way. But had I wanted water, water wasn't a choice there. So by hitting landscape, I could have done water, and then I'd have a mask of water. Does that make sense? So you gotta go look around to see where the best chance for what you can do. What you can't really do much is do things by hand in these masks, like we did in Photoshop. Had I hit background, you have no idea what it'll choose. You have to guess. And by looking at the mask, I can guess that it masked background is both the sky and the water. It assumes that the subject is the buildings, right? Anyway, let's go back to sky. Okay, so now we have a mask for sky. Good. Which means the only thing that's going to be affected with what I do next is the sky. Now, there's not much to the sky, to say the truth, but I could go over here and see how now I have tools that we just worked with. Light, we've just worked with. But this is going to be only for the sky. So if I were to make this exposure really light or really dark, it's only affecting the.
You lost your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. You just said last thing affecting the sky.
Yeah, so now whatever I do here, these are not the same as before. These are new ones, completely at zero, ready to affect only whatever is masked by the sky, which in this case is the sky. So now if I move my shadows to the right or to the left, see how the only thing changing are basically the clouds? I'm going to double click to the middle. The whites is the whole sky, and it's becoming kind of murky. I'm going to double click. My blacks, it's making the clouds look like they're more stormy. Does that work or not for the image? It's up to you. My highlights, it's making it darker or shinier. You know, that's basically all about the sky. So there's not much we can do to the sky, to the truth, because it's a pretty blah sky, but maybe we can change the color, again, of only the sky, right? So maybe I can go in and make the sky bluer or the sky yellower, right? And see how it's not affecting the rest of the image. It's just the sky. Okay, I'm gonna double click to bring it back to wherever it was neutral. I'm gonna make it a little bit bluer. Not really, because if it was sunset, maybe it should be a bit more yellow. Yeah, I think I'm gonna add more yellow to it, really. But over here, I can also change the tone of my sky. See how I can suddenly bring some pink into it, make my blue look a little bit more pinkish. So I'm just, by doing that, look at my clouds. What happened to my clouds? They went green, right? So you have to be careful. So anyway, I'm going to double click. I believe that is where it started at 0. If I double click, I don't remember where this one started. I don't know if this one started at 0. That's just me making it lighter. We can make the sky more saturated. And so that might work because now the blue is popping in a little bit more. You can use a point color. There's not much to this sky, so there's not much we can do. I should have probably chosen water instead. Let's actually leave the sky because really, unless we change the sky, the only thing really changing is these few clouds. So let me back out here and let's say add a new mask. So I'm going to go back to this thing and say create a new mask. This is different. This would be adding things to that mask, which I don't want to. We're going to create a new mask. And now let me go to water again. So I'm going to start by choosing landscape. And that's just because I want a mask, a more useful mask to happen before I'm done. And let me choose water because water has color. So now that I've chosen water, I can change this quite a bit. I can make the water be much more bright or less bright according to whatever I want. I can make it be much darker or much lighter. So I would have more contrast. I should have started with that. Highlights. The water has so much to it that I can really play with it. Now, if it becomes so intense that suddenly it doesn't even look like it belongs to that picture, you know, because remember, water reflects sky, and that's a sky that has nothing. So, you know, there's a limit to how dramatic you want to make this water. Maybe you want to change its color and have it be a little bit more funky. Anyway, I'm just going for a
What's
funky
the
town.
little icon that it's popping up in the water, like a blue thingy?
A blue thing is popping up in the water. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
this
the
thing.
mask. That little thingy?
Yeah,
That? Yeah,
yeah.
that's the mask. That's what's marking me that I have a landscape mask. It's just a little icon
Oh,
next to
it's the same icon. Okay, got
So
it.
you turn it on or off, you just see shape before and after the mask and stuff like that. So it's a oh, you see it. So anyway, you can play, and I'm gonna do something really, really crazy so that we can actually see. I'm turning this into a very bright blue water, which makes no sense, and no water is that color, but I'm just doing that so that we can have something that's very obviously changed by this mask, and then we can see before the mask and after the mask. I'm using this eyeball right there. Before the masks and after the mask. Okay. Now, I know that's not the color of water. You might not know that's not the color of this water, and you might think, well, it's a good color. Let's make it bluish. And if I bring the saturation down a little bit, that doesn't look bad. I happen to know that it's brownish water, but who cares, right? It could be that it's bluish water. If you don't care about historical editorial accuracy travel, you know, photo, then you might want to do that. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at kind of bluish, and I'm going to go back to the snapshots and make one final snapshot with my blue water. I'm going to call this one blue water masked, not maked, masked. It's okay. Masked. Because I'm running out of time. And now I can go back to all my 3 versions, before, after, in the middle. One that's most different, of course, right now is the blue water mask, but there's a big change. So if I keep going from there, and this is what I wanted to show you. So I don't care if your mask looks great, if your sky looks wonderful or not. The sky we can change in Photoshop with the tool we used last week. It's not in Camera Raw. So what if what we decided is we don't like the sky, we want to give it a different sky. So now I'm going to just show you quickly a few steps. Okay, and I might leave some of you guys behind, but you can then watch the recording because I want to finish these few steps to show you what do I do next, right? No matter what tool we're in, say that we're done and we can tell that the sky can't be worked here. We need to work it in Photoshop. That means I can't just say done. Watch, don't do, because if I say done, then that means I'm done. If I go back to bridge, that's what I have, which is an image that I've worked on the buildings, I worked on the water, but blah, the sky is blah. I'm going to double click on it so it opens again in Photoshop. Oh, it opened in beta again, which I wasn't trying to get it to do, but never mind. So now I don't want to say done. I want to go into Photoshop, and I can go into Photoshop two ways. Either clicking the word open or going to this arrow and opening as object. Well, I can also open as copy, but that's not necessary. So watch the differences, okay? First, I'm going to say open, just open, regular open, can't open. And it opened in Photoshop. And that's it. It's my new beginning image. What do I mean by that? I can't, in Photoshop, go back and make the water brown again. It's a blue water. Does that make sense? I have nothing here to edit that. So I need to be very sure that I'm liking what's here if I open this way, because I'm stuck with blue water. That's fine. Now I can proceed to change my sky, and I'm going to do it in like the tiniest second. Where's my edit sky replacement? In just a millisecond, whatever sky's coming up, I'm going to say okay to it. And come on, do it quickly. I'm going to say okay. And there we go. That's the sky. Never mind that it's a good one or not. That's the sky. But it's okay, because if I like that and I like that, life is good. I'm going to undo that and see what would be the option B. And go back to bridge. And I'm going to open it again. And guess what? I already opened one version of Photoshop, but if I go back to my DNG, open it again in Photoshop and RAW, here it's in RAW again, I can now make the color be brown or gray or whatever, or I can open it as object instead of as just open. And if I open it as an object, now I'm in Photoshop again, okay? But there's a big difference. It opened as a smart object. But the good news, if I had done, so here's the one I did before, okay? This is the one that I did that I opened directly. I could make this an object right now, but it would help me to make a new filter, but I can't go back to the old objects versus this one, the one that I just opened from Camera Raw as an object. I can now decide, oh, I really do want that not to be blue. I want it to be green. I can double click on this little box and it opens all my tools back in Camera Raw from Photoshop back into Camera Raw. And now I can go back to the masks and there they are. And I can go to my water mask and there it is. And I can now decide that my color of my water has to be pink. I don't know. Does that make sense? And then I'll say okay to that. And I'm in Photoshop, but I was able to still modify the Camera Raw settings that I said at the beginning. Does that make sense, you guys? So it's the best of all worlds because I'm in Photoshop. I can still modify all those settings that I created, but I can also go in and now say, well, now let's change the sky. And this time I'm going to try to find a sky that matches it a little bit better because I'm not impeded by whatever happened before. So I can find, I don't know, this sky, or of course with pink water, it looks weird. But I can try this one. Oh, actually, that's a bit ridiculous, but not so bad because if I made pink water, maybe it's good to have a pink sky. I'm just throwing that out there. I'd have to change the light and make the light on these buildings a bit more red. I actually want yellow, which doesn't match with pink. But anyway, you know what I'm trying to say? You can keep modifying them as much as you want, but I can still go back to that original place where I made my buildings yellow, double click on it. It opens back in RAW. I go to my color and I'm going to tint my stuff a little bit more yellow, more red. Now, notice that it didn't bring the new sky. It brings my original image. I can go into my mask and make the pink a little bit less saturated so that it's not going to my water mask. So it's a little bit less weird that it's so pinkish. Where's my mask? Pink over here is where I had the pink. It's pink. Ah. On Zoom, it's not, it's going gray. Sometimes in Zoom, when I'm on Zoom, my camera raw doesn't want to work. When I touch it, see how it goes gray and it doesn't let me move it. It just kind of goes dead. But anyway, I brought it down a little bit so that it's now kind of wine instead of pink, wine colored burgundy-ish. I'm gonna say, okay. And so here we go. Now I have a wine burgundy-ish tone over here, a sky replacement over there, redder color on this. So basically I keep changing and changing and changing, but all of it is editable. I can go back to my original sky, or I can go back to, I can just set my default settings to this to be back to 0. But that's because in Camera Raw, I opened as object, okay? When I'm done, I can save this as my new photo. Now this, of course, doesn't match with the original clouds that are there from the original skies. So I'm not gonna say this is a good sky replacement, but showing you the possibilities. When I save this one, Command or Control S, I have to save it as a Photoshop PSD, right? And I'm gonna call this one, I don't know, wine colored water, okay? And sky replacement. But most importantly, it's with open as object. In fact, if all you call it is open as object, that would remind you that. But that's what I did in order to have it all be ultimately completely editable forever and ever. And then you can go into Photoshop where you can do really good masks and maybe make this yellow building be pink. You can take away the people, remove all the distracting people, or you can just, you know, keep changing and adding and make this part of the boat have people in it and stuff, et cetera, et cetera. You can only do those things in Photoshop. Okay. All right. So that last stuff, all I did was open as object, and then I started making changes in Photoshop, whatever. You can play around with the stuff that you know for that. Does that make sense? Let's do a screenshot of that. Anything that you managed to do to follow me. I'm going to post that right now. And here we go. And yes, I opened from Camera Raw as object and was able to continue editing the image from within Photoshop and changed the water from blue to wine colored while also adding a sky replacement. All right, so that's what I just posted. And I see you guys are giving me your posts. Cool. So Eric, I guess I'm not sharing, but I'm looking at all the different corrections and stuff. Okay. Time is up. I've left you guys, you're hanging on 5 extra minutes. It's the last day, so I won't see you again next Monday. For those of you who came in a bit late, we had already talked about how digital design techniques starts next Monday at the same time. And if you want to sign up for that class, we will keep working a little bit with Photoshop, but we'll also be working with Illustrator and InDesign, mainly with InDesign. Let me put this in here again. The class, I believe, earlier this morning still had 1 spot left. But if by now it's not, because I also told my other students about it, then send me an email and I'll sign a form to let you add on if you want to take it. If not, and if it's the last time I see you in Photoshop, then sayonara, it's been awesome. And I hope to see you in another Photoshop. I teach it almost always Friday mornings, and then I teach it at different times, this second version. I also teach a Photoshop for web design that I'll probably be teaching in the spring session, which again, even if you don't design webs, it's just more tools, more stuff to know about Photoshop, right? And as many people here attest, just by taking it different times, you just learn differently. I use different images. So I do hope to see you around
Thank
some
you.
other class or time.
That was
And
great.
you're
Thank you.
welcome. If
Thank
you have any questions, please stay. But other than that,
Thank you so much.
Till the
Thank
next
you. It
time.
was really
Thank
good.
you.
I'm with you in Illustrator class, so I'll
oh,
see you
and
again.
I'm still teaching the Illustrator. Yeah.
Yes, and I might join the digital design techniques. I'm
Okay.
still thinking about.
Okay. If the class is full, remember to email me because when you go
Okay.
right now, let me
Thank you,
see.
Diane.
You're welcome. Bye, Samuel.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Eric. Bye, Colette. Bye,
Thank you,
Rebecca.
Diana.
Thank you.
Bye, Tatiana. Bye, Barbara. But Barbara, you wanted to show me something. You can hang in there a little bit. I can help you with what you were having trouble with, although you're not there right now. But I'll hang in a little bit in case you come back. Okay, bye, guys. Barbara, are you still there? I was going to give you a hand, but you disappeared. I'm going to hang in there a little bit in case you come back. If you can hear me. If you can hear me, go ahead and come back. If you can't hear me, then so be it. Going once, going twice.